and welcome to qualifying for the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy. This is round 3. We are in Mexico City, the oldest capital in the Americas. Amanda, it's so good to be back in this city. Conditions, bizarrely, are very similar to what we had in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia, for the first 2 rounds of this championship, the official support series of the ABB FIA Formula E Championship.
Absolutely, it's been cold and wet, just like in Saudi Arabia.
It's so
But
strange.
if you cast your mind back to this time last year, and we had an absolute cracking race where the VIP driver, Salvador Duran, actually took out our championship leader. So I'm expecting this to be a really exciting race. We've got lots to look forward to. Of course, qualifying is coming up. But we're here in Mexico, as you say. We started the championship in Saudi Arabia. We've come here, we're going to do a little trip around Europe before going to New York and, of course, finishing in London.
It's a long time till we get to London. Let's just quickly remind ourselves of what went down in our first 2 rounds in Diriyah in Saudi Arabia.
We're all set to go for the opening race of the 2019-20 Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy season. The Diriyah race is underway, very quick, lights change, Evans dives over to the inside, I think he's just going to get there in front of Sergio Jimenez. Abby Eaton looks to the outside into the first corner, a right-left chicane. Through the first corner comes Simon Evans, the race leader, and there goes Alice Powell. So she gets ahead and looks to the outside as they come down the start-finish straight, and there's contact, and Jimenez still turning in. Simon Evans, as he did 12 months ago, wins in Diriyah, and it's second across the line for Sergio Jimenez, ahead of Alice Powell. Away we go in Diriyah. Really good start from Jimenez. Al-Ghasaibi in the middle, but Jimenez holds the lead. Evans slots into second place. Abby Eaton, I think, might have had a bit of contact with one of the Saudi drivers. Bit of wing mirror banging there between Alice Powell and Yachi Zhang. Through attack mode goes Al-Ghasaibi, comes out still just in front of Mario Haberfeld. He's trying to force the issue quite a bit. Al-Ghasaibi, oh no! And out goes Al-Ghasaibi. Evans is going to look to the inside. Jimenez covers it off. Jimenez holds on. Evans goes in deep, and Jimenez wins race 2.
And it was a great start. Amazing opening 2 rounds in Saudi Arabia, and we've reignited some rivalries.
We have indeed. Gosh, that rivalry between the Brazilian Sergio Jimenez and New Zealander Simon Evans is really hotting up. And I think you just have to cast your mind back to what happened between the 2 of them when they were racing wheel to wheel in Hong Kong, because sparks were definitely flying there. But really sort of throwing another cat in the pigeon amongst the pigeons, we've got Caca Bueno coming back this weekend. He, of course, had to miss the first 2 rounds because he had a clash with stock cars in Brazil. So he's now going to be coming back this weekend. He is a man on a mission. He knows he's got to score points this weekend if he wants to keep his championship battle alive. I think Alice Powell is worth mentioning. She's racing for Team Germany. Alice really made mistakes in Saudi Arabia in Diriyah. She kept missing out on that attack mode activation and lost a lot of time. So I think she's looked back, she's reflected, she's sort of taken her learnings. She's here fighting fit. And I think it's also worth finally talking about Takuma Aoki. He is doing such an amazing job with this modified car. He, of course, had a motorcycle accident, lost the use of his legs, and his car's been modified by SVO and M Sport, SVO being Jaguar.
He's a former World Superbike racing champion.
Exactly. So his car's been modified. And the way, watching some of the in-car footage yesterday, the way he drives that car really is phenomenal.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, because it really is a phenomenal story. You're absolutely right. But let's go back to Alice Powell. I think once she gets into her rhythm, I think she's going to be really competitive, and I think she will really compete with the boys, especially the Brazilians and Simon.
She has, of course. She's racing in W Series at the moment, single-seaters. It's a totally different idea. It's the way you approach the racing, totally different to racing these big, heavy saloon cars. So it's a challenge for Alice.
All right, qualifying is really important, as we know, so let's go over to our commentators, shall we? Jack Nichols and Hoping Tong.
Thank you very much, Vernon. Yes, here we are in Mexico City with a drying circuit. Huge storm last night and as a result, the track is drying up. Here's a look at the circuit, though, Ho Pin Tung. New track for this year.
Yeah, new track, very exciting layout, a lot faster than last year. Turn 1, similar, but then in turn 3 we're going left, up to the sweeping corners to the hairpin, then a long run up to turn 9 for the entry of the stadium. Stadium identical compared to last year, but of course addition this year, attack mode. We will not see that here in qualifying, but for the race later on today at 2 p.m. Last corner, the long parabolica, will be interesting. One thing which is very uncommon in Formula E is the judgment on track limits. Normally Formula E, of course, and Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY, the wall is the track limit. Here, this being a more traditional race circuit, you can actually run off the track without damaging your car. So last corner is somewhere where the race director will keep a close watch.
Yeah, if the cars are there on their laps, then that's not okay. They've got to be over the other side. And I think it's something we won't see so much with the Formula E cars because they're a bit lower to the ground. That curb's a bit punchy, but these Jaguars can get up and over the curbs. Sergio Jimenez there at the front of the queue. Simon Evans is the championship leader, well, joint championship leader with Sergio Jimenez. Alice Powell is third. Mario Haberfeld is fourth in the standings. But as we say, he's not here. Cagabueno is. Session will start at 8:45 to be confirmed. So we've got a bit of a delay then for the start of this session, some 9 minutes time. So I wonder if they're still, Daniel Abt had a crash in Formula E practice, so I wonder if they're just putting the finishing touches to the barrier down there, potentially. So there you can see the field of cars. Cagabueno returning after, well, Sergio Jimenez won the championship last year. Cagabueno at times looked the quicker of the two. Yes, they are still repairing the circuit down there, so it's good to have him back. Mario Dominguez is quite an exciting addition, actually, in the Jaguar VIP car, a Mexican driver and a man with a lot of racing experience. Yeah, absolutely, always exciting. Every race, a different driver, a local celebrity in the Jaguar VIP car. Mario Dominguez, of course, former IndyCar, Champ Car racing driver, very successful, very exciting to have him here. I spoke with him yesterday, and after a shakedown and free practice, telling me a car, a totally different beast to whatever he's been used to race in the past. Of course, electric, but also a little bit higher center of gravity. The addition of attack mode also for this race, many things to adapt to for him. And due to the coronavirus, Jaguar China Racing have got two different drivers for this one. We've got David Cheng, who did race in Sanya. He has done a race before in the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy. And Manuel Cabrera for the Mexican is going to be in that car as well. We've all got Alberto Baptista and another new driver, Takuma Aoki. And there he is at the back of the field. Let's find out a little bit more about his story.
So I am Takuma Aoki. I came from Japan, Tokyo. I'm starting from racing from 8 years old. Today is my first test day for the I-Pace. My job is a racer, so I will participating to the Le Mans 24 this year. Last year, we get the podium at Ultimate Cup and in Europe. I got injured in 1998. I had a crash with motorcycle. I cannot walking and I cannot moving my legs. But now still racing. Electric car is a very good future for the paraplegia. It is quite hard for me, so because I never driving to the electric car. I am very excited to the Mexico round. That race is a very good experience for me.
It's It's an amazing story, and obviously the car has been modified, James. Just talk through some of the details of what's different between Tacoma's car and everyone else's.
So firstly, the key thing is hand controls. He doesn't have the use of his legs, so we've had to create this special system internally with our special vehicle operations team, which allows him to use his arm to brake the car. It's incredible. You know, we put about 100 kilograms of force through our foot on the pedal. He's achieving that with his hand every time he pushes it. It's amazing, actually, how much upper body strength he really has.
And of course, looking at that hand control yesterday, there's a push. The lever is actually attached then to the brake pedal, so he's actually pushing with his hand, but that's pushing the brake pedal. But then he's also using it to accelerate as well. So his left hand is constantly on that lever, meaning he can only steer with his right.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is incredible is the feel for that. You know, as the car potentially locks up, you've got to manage that. As you said, all that load is going through it. But the reason for it is these cars don't have servo assistance on the brakes, so it requires a high amount of force for him through the lever. So it's quite incredible what he's doing. You saw yesterday, particularly in free practice, where he's actually sliding, balancing the car, but also with one arm. And it's quite incredible how he's doing it. And you know, we know he's going to get quicker. But I think the bigger story is it's just really inspirational. You know, someone who had an incredible motorcycle career, could have stopped racing, and actually we're really honoured to be allowing and helping really him to achieve this next stage of his journey. It's honestly really inspirational story, I think.
But that's a real positive, and that's another positive about the Jaguar I-Pace e-Trophy, is that we're all inclusive. We're such a diverse field, especially Saudi Arabia. We had the first female from Saudi Arabia racing in the Jaguar I-Pace series, which is so impressive.
It is, what we really like about it. We race all around the world. We're a global championship. So to be able to kind of put people like Aoki-san, people like Alice, and the women we have competing in the series onto a global stage is inspiring. It's what motorsport should do, and it's about creating opportunities for people who wouldn't have had them otherwise. And I think this weekend with Aoki, it's an amazing story, and we're just looking forward to seeing him progress through the rest of the season.
Very exciting.
We've also got a brilliant VIP driver this weekend, haven't we? Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, Super Mario. So no, we're looking forward to seeing how he goes. Obviously, a really well-known driver here in Mexico. A very successful single-seater career, particularly in IndyCar, along with Dario Franchitti from Formula E circles. So I'm sure they'll catch up this weekend. But no doubt the Mexican crowd will really enjoy seeing him racing this weekend. He's super hungry to be back in a race car, and just looking forward to seeing how he's going to get on.
And of course, Mario Dominguez was saying when we were talking to him 2 days ago at the event that we had, he's always wanted to drive for Jaguar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really honoured. We have an amazing brand in Jaguar, and as a driver, to drive for one of the big brands like Jaguar with such a history in the sport is really an honour, and he really means a lot to him. So yeah, we're super excited to give him the opportunity, and that's what's great about the series. We have the VIP drivers at each race, and it's about bringing drivers who either are very well known, have a great history in racing, or providing a new opportunity for someone who normally wouldn't, like we had with Rima in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, great to have him in the car this weekend.
And sorry, Amanda, I do beg your pardon. Let's talk about the car itself as well, because with Formula E, the Jaguar Panasonic Formula E team, and the I-Pace e-Trophy, technology is constantly developing. So that means that you're able, lots of processes, able to put that technology into the road car itself, which has already won a lot of awards.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the real reasons we're involved in Formula E, and a lot of manufacturers are. We talk about race-to-road technology transfer, and it really is real, because we're pushing these very early stages of this technology to the limit, and we're learning very quickly about it, and that's very relevant for production cars, and not only with Formula E, but with eTROPHY as well. So a great example is the range extension we've just given to our Jaguar I-Pace, which is a free software download for our customers, which has come from our learnings and our knowledge from the Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY. So Jack and Adam and Gareth and the engineers are here. These guys are back in the factory in the week, actually taking that transfer of technology back to our core engineering team.
Superb.
And of course, the championship is actually still developing, isn't it? Because we're getting more cars on the grid here, but also just more updates to the actual race cars as well.
Yeah, exactly. We made quite a lot of changes from last season to this season in the chassis, just to make the car handle a bit better again. We obviously introduced the TAC mode. So exactly, we're constantly evolving the cars. And the series, we're looking at the grid growing continues. So obviously, new cars here this weekend with an additional Brazilian car with Adalberto Batista joins the championship as well. And Aoki-san, obviously, we talked about. And we're expecting a couple of new more entries for Rome onwards. So we're really excited to see it's gaining momentum. When you have a startup like the Jaguar I-Pace e-Trophy is, it's about building momentum. And we're looking forward to more people joining the fun.
Great stuff.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, let's get to know a couple more of our drivers, especially the Saudi team, Amanda, who you met recently.
That's right. I went to just get to know 2 of the new rookies that we've got in the championship earlier on in the weekend. welcome guys to Mexico. We bring you to all the very best places, don't you think?
Yeah, we made it. We're here. This kind of reminds me of a fish market back home, but it smells very different. Different colors. There's definitely a lot going on here.
Are you tempted by any of it?
I mean, I'm interested, yeah.
So come on then, who is up for trying a cricket?
Are you going to try one?
I will if you do.
Okay, let's do this.
Matt?
No, thank you. I'll watch.
Oh God, that's a big one. Oh, it's got its leg out as well. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. What does it taste like?
Salty. They're nice.
Yeah, good.
Looking back to Saudi, what was it like having the opportunity to race on home soil in front of your home crowd?
It was a bit overwhelming because we've never experienced something like that on home soil.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't overwhelmed at times. You know, there was a lot of pressure on the track and off the track, media engagements. Yeah, it was pretty intense. We learned a lot about the car, we performed well, our times kept getting quicker. But unfortunately had a bit of an incident, didn't manage to finish the second race.
Oh no! Out goes Al-Ghassabi.
I think the car took it very well. The cars are really safe. I walked out of it with nothing, but emotionally it was a bit heavy. If anything, it's going to make me hungrier, it's going to make me push harder. We're gonna keep fighting for the championship.
So looking ahead then to Mexico, have you had much of a chance to look at the track yet?
I mean, the track looks really nice. It's an F1 circuit, so it's different to what we experienced in Riyadh.
Riyadh was a bit tricky. It was either you get it right or you're in the water. So it was a bit risky. Whereas here, I think we can go flat out.
It's a very unique championship. Cars are unlike any other cars out there, so figuring out how to maximize the performance in such a limited amount of time it's a skill in itself.
It's rapid, it's quick, the brakes are awesome, and all that is done from an electric engine. So that really surprised me, the fact that you can do a race car or a race series with an electric engine like that. So I'm impressed, honestly.
So what are your expectations for this race?
We're here to win, we want to be first in our class. Really here with a lot of hunger, especially after how the last race ended. Very, very excited, and I'm just going to go all out.
Well listen, fighting talk guys, and the very best of luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Amanda, you know I hold you in high regard. However, you've gone up a notch.
I have gone
after that.
Well, do you know what? Actually, they were both really game. Yeah, both really game. And I have to say, I was really impressed because my understanding was that Fahad was actually a vegan, but clearly he felt he was...
He still ate the insects.
He was still like very high source of protein.
I'm sure they are.
Very high source of protein.
I'm sure they are, but I will stick to my whey protein powder that I put in a mixer every morning instead of going out and grabbing a handful of cockroaches.
Well, there we go.
Just to let you know that qualifying is delayed because of an incident earlier on in FP1 with the Formula E cars. Daniel Abt had an off. They're repairing the barrier at the moment. So once it's done, we will crack on. We will continue with our qualifying for the I-Pace eTROPHY.
But delighted to say that we're now joined by Jack Lambert, who's the lead development engineer on the I-Pace. We're just going to talk about attack mode a little bit because it really was the story of the first two rounds in Diriyah, don't you think? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's been a great addition for us this year. It's been something that we of the team have developed from last season, learning from Formula E and trying to bring that into eTROPHY. The car's big, the circuits are not, so trying to promote overtaking opportunities is something that we felt was, top of the list for us in development, and Diriyah really showed that played out. It's difficult for some drivers to sort of sacrifice time for accuracy in terms of getting through the boost zone, but when it works brilliantly.
And Alice really was the one who I think suffered the most with attack mode in Saudi. How has she been able to sort of rectify that? What has she been looking at?
So I think it's going back and looking at her data, particularly the inboard camera shots that she can see, so her positioning of the car versus the zone on the track. Diriyah was particularly difficult, very close to a concrete wall, so putting the car in the position that it needs to be in is something that, it's kind of unnatural, pushing the car closer and closer and closer to the wall. I think certainly in Mexico now we're seeing a open, more easy access attack zone, so I think we're going to see much more action from it.
An attack zone here is in the stadium section. They're not actually having to go that far offline, and I don't know, tell me your opinion. Do you think they're actually going to lose position when they actually have to drive through the activation zone?
I think in the first few laps, when the cars are really up together, I think we will see cars lose position. But as they start to space out during the race, it's going to become more strategic to make that loss of time, be it quite small, work for you from a competitive advantage.
And one of the things about this circuit that's unique is we've got much longer straights. It's less of a twist and tight city street circuit.
Yeah.
It is obviously a street circuit. So attack mode, when you've activated it, how beneficial do you think it's actually going to be?
It will be beneficial. I mean, as you activate it coming out of the stadium, you're onto the main straight, really, and the car is able to go around the top parabolic curve almost flat. So as the drivers are coming onto the main straight, the car is running as fast as it will go. So that's where the advantage is going to play out. And then through the back section, you're into another straight. Again, opportunities to catch up through the corner and then make that advantage work onto the straight. It's going to really be entertaining, I think, for us all to watch.
So you reckon we're going to get lots of overtaking?
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Great.
We're in for an exciting race.
I can't wait.
Looking forward to this when we get started. Good grief, come on. Surely it can't be that difficult to repair a couple of barriers. I think we should go out there and help
them.
Yeah, well, you've got your protein fill. You'll be able to move it with the cockroaches and the insects and what have you. All right, let's go to Jack and Hopin in the commentary booth.
Sorry, I'm just laughing so hard at the thought of you doing some work, Vernon. Amazing. These were the highlights of practice yesterday. The first time we got to see the cars go out on the circuit. There was Alice Powell focused, and she's someone that's learning a lot. There was a puncture for Cacabueno. The rear right tyre went down. I wonder if that was curb abuse somewhere out there. And here we can see some of the onboard action from Takuma Aoki. Really awesome to see him working the car. There was a spin as well for Manuel Cabrera, the Mexican racing for Jaguar China Racing this weekend. Really leaning on the cars. That was a really close little nudge of the barrier for the Brazilian. Balhajela went spinning as well. Actually, quite a lot of rotations, quite frankly, yesterday. It's not something that you see a lot of, and I wonder whether drivers are just sort of pushing a little bit more, leaning a little bit more on the car, knowing that they haven't got just the wall that they're going to be coming up to every single time. But at the moment, we're still waiting for that barrier to be repaired. Hoping this must be frustrating for these drivers, because presumably they've got no clocks in the car or anything like that. So they're just there waiting, and they don't know how long for.
Yeah, correct. They have no clocks in the car, and they also have no radio communication. So they will hear from the race director messages about the starting time of the session, but they can't talk back to anyone, neither mechanics, engineers. You just have to sit there and wait. And as a driver, you really try to focus yourself on doing that specific lap in qualifying, and then this kind of delay is really, you have to refocus yourself again once you start going. Yes, it kind of disrupts you a little bit.
Yeah, very frustrating for these drivers who want to get out and qualify, and qualifying always very important. But attack mode has really changed things in the Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY, hasn't it? It was Alice Powell struggled to quite get it in the zones, but it adds an element of strategy to the race that wasn't there before.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially here, I think in Mexico, we will see it will be an important tool to overtake. Long straights, attack mode in Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY will give you 20% more power. It has to be activated twice during the race. Slightly different compared to ABB Formula E is the fact that you don't have to finish your full attack mode time before you cross the checkered flag. So technically you can do it in the last lap. However, here, with the attack mode activation zone being only a little bit offline, I think you won't lose a position. So people will try to take it, not just as a way to attack, but maybe also a defensive attack mode almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be slightly different, won't it, to the way it was in Saudi Arabia. And Amanda has got some news.
Well, I was really going to talk yesterday about the fact that in free practice, many of the drivers' fast laps were actually discounted because they were exceeding track limits. And I think looking at the situation that we've got at the moment, I think qualifying may well actually be cancelled. That's certainly some of the rumours that we're hearing down here in the pit lane. If so, they're of course going to be using the times from yesterday's free practice session as qualifying. And I wonder how that's going to go down. Hopin, what do you think?
Yeah, we've seen a similar situation in season 1 of Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY.
First ever race.
The first ever race in Diriyah, where there was so much rain that qualifying couldn't happen. So yeah, the starting positions will then be based on the results of the free practice. It shows you also a little bit where, as a driver, you always need to be focused on getting that lap in, even in free practice. Yeah, so we will now see, I think it's Jaguar who was the fastest.
No,
Sergio Jimenez, yes, sorry.
Sergio.
Yeah, who was the fastest in qualifying.
And he was, he was 1.1 seconds ahead of Simon Evans, actually, in that session. He was absolutely flying.
Yeah, and one thing you have to bear in mind as well is that in free practice, people will be trying slightly different things. For qualifying, for example, the drivers are not able to use attack mode, whereas in free practice they are. So if you're able to use it and actually nail that specific lap, you will have a big advantage, which might explain the big gap that Sergio Jimenez had compared to all the other drivers.
If you remember, Hopin, as well, yesterday, I think it was Jaguar who was pushing extremely hard. I can't remember if it was in the stadium section or coming out onto the main straight at the end, but he lost it and, of course, got a puncture as well. So the time that he actually did in free practice isn't necessarily indicative of what his actual pace is.
Yeah, he did his, Jaguar did his fastest lap on lap 6, whereas Jimenez did his fastest lap on his lap 17, and the same is true of Simon Evans. Same is true of everyone else. They set their fastest lap much later on in the session. We'll take a look at how the championship standings are currently coming into this Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy weekend. After this, we've got races in Rome, Paris, Berlin, New York, and London, and it's Sergio Jimenez and Simon Evans that are tied at the top here. Jaguar, it's going to be tough for him, isn't it, to close in on Jimenez and Evans. Despite the pace and the performance we saw from him last year, he's at a bit too much of a disadvantage, isn't he?
Having said that, though, he did struggle.
We've just seen at the bottom right there, sorry, qualifying session is cancelled. So it will be the free practice results that take the grid for later on. But sorry, you were saying about...
Yeah, no, Jaguar obviously last year in Hong Kong and in Paris had a poor race, touched the barrier by himself, scored no points there. So still all open for him.
Let's go down to Amanda.
Gosh, well, it's certainly hotting up down here. I wish it was actually hotting up in temperature terms as well, because it's actually freezing cold. But talking about the temperature, obviously last year when we were here, it was absolutely boiling hot. Now it's really cold. What difference is it making to the guys in the car?
Well, certainly coming from yesterday as well, it was very hot yesterday, so the setup changes coming in today are going to be critical, especially with all the rain overnight. You know, the track evolution is going to be massive from yesterday into this morning. Now we're looking at a possible cancelling of qualifying. The guys are going to have to go back and look at their setups again.
Qualifying has officially been cancelled.
It's been cancelled,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, so straight back into setups, looking at what the weather's going to do over the next hour or two. Certainly with Formula E going out and how the track's going to evolve, the setup has to change. Guys are coming out this morning and looking at wet setups, how to get the most out of the grip out of the car. And certainly with the complexity of the track, that adds another element to it. We've got a parabolic corner, which adds something that we don't normally see. A really steady state corner for quite a long time, fixed steering angle into a complex stadium section, hairpins. It's really, really big variation of corners on the circuit. So the setup's going to be critical.
So let me talk about the setup and how the process works.
Yeah.
So we had free practice yesterday, and we're going to take those times from free practice, and that's going to set out the grid. So the cars would be generally set up to just feel the track. Is that how it works? And then for qualifying, I guess it's just one fast lap is all they need in that 30-minute qualifying session. And then you come in, you do some tweaks for the actual race setup. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it really varies from driver to driver. We've got guys that have lived and breathed this car for the last year and a half, so they know exactly where their setup wants to be. Coming into Mexico again, obviously we've got slight changes to the track, but they'll know where they were last year. The car's changed a lot, so again, the learning happened from Riyadh, and they're bringing that into Mexico. The guys that will have the biggest challenge is our VIP driver, Mario Dominguez. Never driven the car before, straight into shakedown yesterday. We're looking at new drivers, the guys that are coming in to support the Chinese team. Again, they've never driven the car before. David joined us in Sanya, but the evolution of the vehicle and the evolution of the tracks has been massive. So setup from shakedown into free practice will change. Free practice into today will change. The guys are going to look at how to maximise the grip in the car, but also help it to rotate and turn. Four-wheel drive, quite a heavy car, as we all know, but getting it to turn through the stadium section is going to be key, but also stay nice and settled to carry as much speed as they can around the top parabolica into the main straight.
And also from 3 to 8, that's quite tight as well.
3 to 8 is tight, and 3 to 8 there's a big braking zone, and coming through turn 7 as well. Turn 7 is fast, and it's there's not a lot of runoff in turn 7, certainly on the exit. So the guys are going to be trying to keep the car nice and settled through there, but also getting it to turn into the stadium section.
And what kind of tweaks are needed? Is it suspension, ride height, that kind of stuff?
So there's lots of different things. Dampers are a big player, tyre pressures, ride heights, as you say, anti-roll bars. So it's about getting the balance of the car that's right for the driver. Drivers have different styles. Sergio, I know he drives with absolute finesse and precision, and he's learnt that over the last year.
That doesn't surprise me. Absolute finesse. The man is absolute finesse.
Yeah, I completely agree. So he's obviously landed on a setup for free practice yesterday that works for him. 1.1 seconds ahead of the rest of the field is something that we've not seen before. Normally we're looking at 4/10 between the top 5 cars, and that's not what we're seeing this weekend.
But he was one of the ones that I noticed had quite a few of his lap times discounted for track limits.
Pushing limits. That's what he's here to do. You know, that's why Team Brazil have got him in the car. He is just able to push the limits, and he'll find the point where the car is settled and he is not exceeding those track limits to make those laps count. And that would be what his going in point for qualifying would be. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. It's just good that he had his free practice times for him yesterday, which will be the starting lineup for the race.
And going back to Team Brazil, because we've got an additional Brazilian driver racing this weekend, Adalberto Baptista.
Oh yeah, Adalberto's joined us, so it's great to have another car on the grid, another car from Team Brazil who've been so instrumental in the series from start to where we are now. Adalberto joins us as a Pro-Am as well, so it's another element to the Pro-Am category. It's just great, really. Another fantastic story around eTROPHY to get more drivers into the cars.
And Kaká Bueno's come back. What's he been like since his return?
Kaká's he just gets into the car, gets on with it. He knows his setup, he knows his engineers, he knows his mechanics, and he can get the most out of the car. So the same as Sergio. And the battle between those two drivers, with Simon now in the mix, is something that I think would be brilliant to watch this weekend, especially with attack mode and the way the drivers are having to use attack mode to get the most out of the car.
Moving on to Team China, obviously there have been travel restrictions for the Chinese drivers, so last-minute substitutions that we've got here. You've mentioned David Cheng, he's already driven the car, but how was the decision made? Have you had any part to play in how the decision was made, finding the replacement drivers?
Not us personally. I believe it's been the story of, how can we support our Chinese colleagues within eTROPHY. So Manuel was keen to join the series and help the team out because he started his racing career out in China, and David was instrumental in Sanya, coming in as a VIP driver. The story around David joining us was brilliant. So to get him back in the car is something that we couldn't turn down.
Absolutely. It's going to be, I mean, it's wonderful that we've managed to find the substitutes. Obviously, we're sending our very best to everybody who is in China at the moment. But Jack, I think there is still lots of stuff from yesterday that we can take a look at.
Well, it's worth having a look at this new Mexico City circuit, really, because we haven't seen the Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY run on this particular layout. So Hopin's along with me. We're on the nose cam on board with Takuma Aoki, and turn 1 and 2, pretty much the same.
Yeah, very identical. We see the drivers here on the exit, sometimes taking a bit of the grass there on the exit. Turn 2, the really long right-hander, but then here, turn 3, sharp left rather than continuing to the right for the chicane that we had last year. A few nudges of the wall here yesterday in shakedown and qualifying by a couple of drivers. This corner particularly, turn 5, quite hard because you got the car sideways loaded the moment you actually hit the brake pedal. So a bit unstable rear there, hard to stop the car. Taking a bit of grass here into 7 on the left-hand side to cut the corner. A long run up to turn 9. I don't think we will see someone overtaking here unless someone makes a mistake on the exit of the hairpin of turn 5. Hard braking here for turn 9, going into the stadium, fully relying on the ABS of which these I-Pace eTROPHY cars are equipped. Then here, the stadium itself. Turn 10, turn 11, try to be smooth, try to stay tight. We saw yesterday, the trick is to stay tight here. 12, 13. People trying to cut a lot yesterday there, on top of the curb, over the curb even. We will probably not see that today in the race as there have been made some measures to prevent drivers from cutting there. Then of course the very exciting long right-hand parabolica. Yesterday in free practice, not exactly flat out yet, but with the track evolution, with all the Formula E cars running as well, I expect it to be flat during the race. Of course also have to bear in mind that in free practice, drivers are using tires from a pool from the previous race. For qualifying and the race, new tires.
And this is how he does it. So you can see he's steering with his right hand here, and his left arm, basically, when you see it moving up and down, that is him doing the throttle.
Yeah.
When you see him pushing it, that's him doing the brake.
Correct. So when he puts the lever down, basically.
So now he's full throttle here.
He's full throttle, exactly. Then when he's up, he releases the throttle, and then when he pushes, it's basically a bar going directly from the lever on the brake pedal. So there's no electronic assistance whatsoever at all. It's a pure mechanical system.
So it's interesting actually, because you see that swing up, don't you? So that's why he's sort of coming, because he's coming off the throttle and braking at the same time. Watch it here. He'll swing round and then down.
So
if you see
he
what I mean.
up and then immediately push forward as hard as he can. These cars equipped with ABS, he will fully rely on the ABS, but in order to use the ABS, you need to put a lot of force. 100 kg, we often say 100 to 120 kg on the brake pedal, and he's able to push that with his arm, so it's very impressive.
That's true. Yeah, it must be easier to push that amount of weight with your legs than your hands.
Yeah, especially explosivity you're able to produce with your leg.
Yeah.
You know, the initial hit on the brake pedal is very important for the deceleration of the car, so that's something he has mastered with his arm, which is very impressive.
Fascinating stuff. So Takuma Aoki there, and he's raced in Dakar and all sorts of things, hasn't he?
Another thing, of course, he's always steering with his right-hand arm. For the race later on, one thing important is the attack mode. Before drivers go through, you have to press the boost button, which is on the left-hand side. But for his car, they've swapped it around to the right-hand side, obviously.
Fascinating. So that was an onboard lap with Takuma Aoki. Fantastic stuff. And this is the results from yesterday in the third round of the Jaguar I-Pace eTROPHY. This was the free practice classification, so this will be the grid due to the cancellation of qualifying. Sergio Jimenez will start on pole position, the two championship leaders locking out the front row. Cacabueno in third, Alex Powell in fourth. Fahad Al-Ghassabi will be on pole position in the Pro-Am class. That's with the numbers with the white backgrounds. Manuel Cabrera in sixth position, and Mario Dominguez in the VIP car will be in seventh spot. Then we got Mash Belhajela in 8th position, and Alberto Baptista in 9th, and then David Cheng, and then Takuma down in 11th position. And these are the standings at the moment. Cacabueno, Takuma Aoki and Manuel Cabrera joining the championship for this race, hence the reason that they have 0 points. And that is the standings in the Pro class, with Jimenez and Evans tied, both with a first and a second place finish last time out. And as far as the Pro-Am standings are concerned, Yachi Zhang and Sun Chao are at the top there, but they're missing this race, so it's a chance for Mash Belhajela and Fahad Al-Ghassabi to try and close in the gap a little bit on the Jaguar China Racing drivers. But last year in Mexico City was a bit of a chaotic one. Off the line, it was the two front runners that got away, with Catherine Legg leading as they came down into the first corner. Simon Evans was getting into the fight, and then Salvador Duran really is the driver to watch in the all-blue car around the outside. He was the VIP driver. The two Saudi drivers bashed into each other at the first corner, but it was Catherine Legg ahead of Brian Sellers, with Salvador Duran in third, and he got a bit elbows out, didn't he, Salvador?
Yeah, exactly, especially last year's configuration, very different. Slow chicanes, able to make maybe a bit opportunistic move, which he did in the chicane, last chicane in the Parabolica.
That was the first one when he chucked it up the inside of Brian Sellers. That didn't work out, but then it was Cacabueno was right behind him, and coming into the chicane, Bueno had a go. There was a spin.
Here we go.
Yeah, this was it. Have some of that. And Bueno was then spinning. Simon Evans got caught up in all of that as well. And then he came back across with broken steering and ended up taking out Bandar Al-Asai too. So it was all a little bit chaotic. And from then on, it was basically a battle between the two Rahal Letterman drivers, Legg and Sellers, out in front, because there was huge damage as well for Stefan Radzinski, who went through the whole season getting damaged, really, I feel.
Yeah, Legg and Sellers, massive battle all the way until the very end of the race. Legg even having to defend some places on the very last lap of that race.
Here's a look at the replay. Bueno sent it up the inside. It was a robust move, but I think it was all right. But it was there that it all got a bit messy at the second apex. But that's why these chicanes have gone, because it's, you know, it's not that sort of clunky messiness anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the chicanes were extremely tight and maybe a bit too inviting sometimes for drivers to make the lines. this year's track a lot faster, so especially with the addition of the attack mode. I'm expecting a very exciting race this afternoon with lots of overtaking.
And Simon Evans was just unlucky here. He was caught out, had nowhere to go, and had to wait till everybody had rejoined the circuit to get back on his way. There was a great battle for the lead in Pro-Am. Simon Evans actually clipped Bandar Al-Asai while he was trying to fight with Ahmed bin Cannon as Evans tried to climb back up through the order. But I think his car had taken a bit of a knock, and he really struggled to get past the Saudi guys. But look how close the race leaders were, Leg and Sellers. And I think at this point, weren't they battling for the lead of the championship? I think they might even have been tied for the lead of the championship after this race.
Yes, Simon Evans obviously gone into this race as the championship leader.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, sustained some damage due to contact. Wasn't able to make his way forward into the field. But yeah, Leg, very exciting race, winning into a real big fight until the very end.
So, Catherine Legg taking the victory, Sellers second, Jimenez third. Let's go back down to Vernon and Amanda.
So, of course, we're here in the pit lane. Unfortunately, qualifying has been cancelled because of an accident earlier on in the day with the Formula E cars. The track and the barriers are being repaired, but I'm delighted to say Jack Lambert is joining us, helping us certainly fill in some of the blanks and elaborate on some of the stories that have been going on so far. Now, Jack, we were just watching there some of the highlights from last year's race. It was an absolutely cracking race, and I think the addition of the VIP driver definitely spiced things up a little bit.
Certainly did spice things up a little bit. I think we saw some great racing. We saw a really good 1-2 from the American team last year that was great to watch, bumper to bumper all the way around. And I have to say, I think the rest of the grid were maybe disrupted somewhat by our VIP driver last year. It's probably fair to say. A big racing incident with Kaka. So yeah. Hopefully we see some cleaner but some more competitive racing this year.
Cleaner, more competitive, but this edition of attack mode is really critical, and I think particularly more so than ever on a circuit like this where we have these super long straights.
Yeah, absolutely. And where attack mode is situated this year is a really complex series of corners. So you've got a left, 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 and that left, 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 the last sort of section is where you've got to get the car into the attack zone, which is tucked all the way to the inside. So picking your line through there whilst trying to defend a position is going to be really complicated. Bringing that out of the stadium section onto the long curve and onto the straight is where the moves are going to happen.
What are the major differences between last year's car and this car?
It's all been around understanding the circuit and the car and how they work together. Last year we bought a car that was developed all from simulation of these circuits, and we can only find certain test tracks around the world that can simulate a street circuit. It's not very common. We can't shut down a city to go testing, unfortunately. So following on from the simulation world, we can now correlate that back to everything that we learned last year and understand more about the car. So working with the chassis and everything to get the most out of it.
Nice. Simon Evans has joined us. Hi, Simon.
Hello. How's everyone?
Simon, we're good. More importantly, how are you, and how is everyone feeling about the fact that qualifying has been cancelled?
I know how it feels in Saudi last year when qualifying got cancelled for everyone else and I was on pole, so it didn't bother me. But now I'm second, I really want to go out there. So a little bit frustrating, but obviously track conditions or whatever is not ideal, so it's probably a little bit safer for everyone. And I'm second, so it's not too bad.
Second, not too bad. But listen, when we were watching the session yesterday, you and Sergio were trading places, and then suddenly, 1.1 seconds, he managed to sort of pull out this gap, which we aren't really used to seeing in iPace eTROPHY. What did he do? Or what didn't you do?
Yeah, my last lap on when I went to do the attack mode, the battery dropped below 20%, so it deactivated my attack mode. So I didn't actually get a true lap time in yesterday. So if they go off these times for qualifying, a little bit frustrating because I don't think my time wasn't done on attack mode. But it is what it is. I can't change it. If I am second, it's okay, and just got to try past them in the race.
So, listen, what then? Bearing in mind we had torrential rain last night, we've got now an unseen track today. What are you actually going to go into the race looking to achieve and maybe looking to change or keep on the car?
I mean, the one nice thing about probably being second is you're not the guinea pig. You know, you're not going out there first car trying all the new conditions. So at least I can use Sergio, as a bit of a guide. But I think I'm still going to try attack him quite early on and see if I can get ahead of him and win the race.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much, Amanda. We hopefully will have a race a little later on in the day. Check local times for details. We'll see you then.